From an oil truck driver in Pakistan who bailed at the last possible second, and a pair of Supercat speedboats that flipped mid-race, to a fireworks show in Italy that looked more like a war zone, and a bread truck driver who was lucky enough to survive getting hit by a train. Here are 10 moments filmed seconds before disaster. If you're trying to transport dangerous chemicals, you should probably make sure the road is safe. These guys in Kashmir, Pakistan didn't get that message. On August 10th of 2022, a group of Pakistani men were transporting a tanker carrying liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG. They arrived at a narrow dirt road overlooking a steep hill. While roads like these are common in Kashmir, it doesn't mean they're safe. You're about to see why.
Ya Allah hai, 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 Ya Allah hai,
Luckily, the driver jumped out before the truck tumbled downhill. You can just barely see him fall from the cab moments before the disaster. Liquefied petroleum gas is just a fancy way of saying propane. In 1992, propane was permitted as an alternative energy source for cars. Today, there are 60,000 on-road propane vehicles in the United States. It's mostly used in school buses, shuttles, and cop cars, according to the Department of Energy. Every year, the Race World Offshore event brings the best high-speed boat racers to Key West, Florida. Pro racers push their skills to the limit during 3 days of racing and 7 days of events. They're all after the same prize, the coveted Offshore Racing World Championship. The Supercat class is like the F1 version of high-speed boat racing. These babies can reach speeds of up to 145 miles per hour. Like F1 cars, these boats must be light and aerodynamic to go that fast. That means even a slight mistake or gust of wind can have drastic consequences. The double flip occurred during the 5th lap of the Superstock race. The drivers gunned it between turns 2 and 3 when they both spontaneously flipped at the same time. It looks like a worst-case scenario. The tension escalates when nobody can see the drivers. Thankfully, they popped up a moment later. Rescue boats arrived to make sure everybody was okay. The drivers and crew were shaken up, but ultimately uninjured. As a precaution, everyone was taken to the hospital to check for any underlying injuries. Aiguebelette-le-Lac is a small village in southeastern France. Its name comes from its location near one of France's largest natural lakes, Lac d'Aiguebelette. It's a picturesque area, one that's best viewed from high in the sky. On May 22nd of 2020, a team of paragliders jumped from their plane and opened their chutes over the French forests. 2 of them got too close and tangled in each other's lines. GoPro footage from one of their helmets shows what falling nearly 5,000 feet looks like. Our pilot, Sébastien Wattier, said both people were at fault for the collision. When they crashed, Sébastien suffered what's called harness syndrome. It's when your harness compresses blood circulation, causing you to lose consciousness. He remained that way for 10 minutes while suspended in the tree. The female paraglider was unharmed but shaken up. Both exercised extreme calm and caution when the worst thing possible happened. They opened their emergency chutes, which saved their lives in the end. Amazingly, Sébastien was back in the sky 24 hours later. After all, he had to test his new equipment. On a clear day in St. Petersburg, Russia, a local daredevil decided to test his wacky glider. As the second largest city in Russia, he needed to take his contraption outside the city limits. He and his buddies found a long stretch of secluded road that made for a good runway. And we're not sure what's going on here, what type of plane this is, or how he plans on achieving flight. His cameraman can't help but laugh at how silly the whole thing looks. Nevertheless, our pilot pushes on. His friends tow him down the street, and then, disaster.
Молодец, что пристегнулся. Ай. Хорошо, что пристегнулся.
Да, хорошо.
Thankfully, the pilot seemed okay and in good spirits. He probably accepted that his flight was doomed from the start. Even as they towed him, you could see the glider leaning in either direction. Whatever that is on top, it seems way too heavy. The video description calls it a rotor plane, but searching that in Google didn't turn up anything helpful. We're starting to suspect this crazy Russian built this monstrosity in his garage. Maybe he wanted to be a Russian Wright brother? The Turkish city of Afyon is a critical railway junction between Izmir, Ankara, and Istanbul. So, when something goes wrong on the tracks, everything gets backed up. Back in 2020, a bread truck driver named Uj Chankava learned that lesson the hard way. On February 6th of that year, Uj was driving his normal route when he came upon a railroad crossing. Now, he must not have been paying attention because the crossing arm was clearly down. What happened next should have cost Uj his life. By some miracle, he survived. CCTV cameras roll as Uj approaches the track from the left. He slams on the brakes, but skids through the arm. He stops on the tracks, looks up, and sees the train. Smack! The train carries him over 1,600 feet down the track. The second angle is almost worse. Uj cuts the wheel and hits the gas moments before the train smashes him. Had he just kept going, he would have cleared the track. We imagine his natural instinct was to slam on the brakes. Somehow, Uj survived the crash. He was rushed to a nearby hospital where we believe he made a full recovery. The accident caused the train to shut down for a few hours while they cleaned up. There's not much going on in Kismet, California. Besides a few farms and a handful of people, the town is generally quiet 24/7. But on June 14th of 2006, everyone in the sleepy little village heard the same massive bang. Two Burlington Northern freight trains were barreling down the tracks. One of them was supposed to stop so the other could use the siding rail. The engineer of the oncoming train clearly didn't get that message. The crash took out the camera, that's why you're staring at a blue screen. But you can still hear the horrible sound of crashing trains. If you look closely, the engineer of the oncoming train jumped out at the last second. According to reports, his train was only moving at 22 miles per hour. While hitting the ground that fast isn't deadly, it probably hurts. Our train was going 38 miles per hour, which was way too fast to jump. Instead, the engineer turned to the conductor and yelled, "Let's ride it out, we don't have time." Thankfully, nobody got hurt when the trains collided. The accident caused 7 units to derail and over $5 million in total damage. When you think of Palm Beach, Florida, you probably picture yourself relaxing on a warm beach with a fancy drink. The last thing on your mind is a freak tornado. The weekend of April 30th of 2023 was a disastrous 48 hours for Palm Beach County. Relentless storms battered the area on Saturday. Then, the unthinkable happened on Sunday. An ultra-rare EF2 tornado touched down near Palm Beach Gardens, a small city north of the main tourist area.
This is the scariest thing I've ever been in. Oh my god. Holy shit. I hope this stops. I just saw a car flip over in front of me. Holy God.
That was probably the most harrowing experience of our cameraman's life. They were driving around Palm Beach Gardens when they heard the tornado warning over the radio. Then it struck out of nowhere. The back of their car lifted off the ground. That's when the other car rolled across the road. Luckily, a truck beside our cameraman's car blocked most of the wind. The people in the flipped car were okay and got treatment for minor injuries. Otherwise, nobody else got hurt when the storm tore through. The same can't be said for the Sanctuary Cove apartment complex, which was declared uninhabitable after the storm. Punta del Este is a seaside resort city in southeastern Uruguay. What began as a small coastal town grew into the Miami Beach of South America. Tourists from across the Western Hemisphere come to relax on the beach and stay at luxurious hotels. But on August 8th of 2022, the exclusive resort city got a humbling wake-up call. The Tienda Inglesa was a busy shopping center and supermarket in the heart of Punta del Este. But when a fire broke out in the supermarket bakery, the entire structure went up in flames. Even the most luxurious places on Earth aren't fireproof. Once the smoke clears, you can see the massive piece of gutted wall. Just think about your local shopping mall. Now imagine the entire food court caving in. According to the fire department, several stores and part of the roof collapsed because of the fire. By the time they arrived, the flames had already engulfed the basement, basically burning the mall from the ground up. The fire began Saturday morning and burned into Sunday. This video was shot early Sunday morning after the fire had eviscerated the interior. The heat caused ventilation ducts to fail, allowing the fire to spread to unforeseen places. They'd fight it in one area, and then it would pop up in another. By then, it was too dangerous and too unpredictable. All they could do was contain it and let it die on its own. Fireworks are more or less the same in every language. People love setting off colorful bangs to celebrate every situation. On November 10th of 2014, a town in Italy was gearing up for a massive fireworks show when something went horribly wrong. It looks like they set up the mortars in a field of tall plants. Apparently, that wasn't the best idea. One of them malfunctioned, causing a chain reaction that sent all the fireworks off simultaneously. That final blast looks like something out of a war movie. Our cameraman ran for the hills as shrapnel rained down on the crowd. Maybe it wasn't a great idea to allow people to stand so close, but then again, they probably weren't expecting that to happen. Multiple sources say the fiasco looked a lot worse than it was. I don't know about you, but that looked intense. Thankfully, though, there were no reported injuries of any kind. Malaysia is among the rainiest places on Earth. They get about 3,000 millimeters of rain each year, or just under 120 inches. All that extra moisture can lead to devastating flash floods and landslides. January of 2022 dumped buckets on the Malaysian town of Seri Kembangan. When locals noticed some cracking along the sidewalk, they knew a landslide was imminent. The only problem? There was a line of parked cars right over the crack. If the ground gives way, it'll take the cars with it. You can probably guess what happened next. The guy in the mask and striped shirt must be standing there wondering, who do I call? The police? Rescue? A tow truck? Instead, he called the fire department. When they arrived, firefighters found 5 cars buried in the rubble. Officials were worried that more land could crumble after the initial slide. They evacuated 17 shops and buildings along the road just to be safe. Then, they began inserting 150-meter iron pylons to keep the area stable. Once it was secure, people could file insurance claims and pull their cars out. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.